It's a glass-filled sandwich. The old man took a bite without saying a word. Even if his mouth was covered in blood, he didn't care. And a sandwich like this, he eats it every day. Whenever he gives the word, his wife had to bring it right away. If she was a second late, she would be beaten. After the sandwich was delivered, the wife rushed out of the room and hides in the small room to knit a jumper. But before she can knit a few times, there's another call from her husband. The wife had no choice but to do it. To express her displeasure with her husband, she added detergent to the mixture. To her surprise, he ate it with gusto. Incredulous, the wife rushes off. She went back to the hut and continued knitting her jumper. But after a few more strokes, the familiar sound of urging came again. Angrily, the wife puts the jumper down. She goes back to the kitchen to make her husband a sandwich. This time she decided to make something tasty. Can you guess what this is? Feel free to type in the comments section. To her surprise, the husband ate it better this time. The wife was stunned. By this time, her heart was not at peace. The fear and the thrill of revenge had gripped her. But when the familiar voice came again, she exploded into a frenzy. A cry of anger came from her husband. She was taken aback, looking at the shattered glass. Her suddenly had a terrible thought. She put the glass in the middle of the sandwich. Then, trembling, she brought it to her husband. To her surprise, he still ate it with gusto. Even when his mouth was covered in blood, he didn't even want to stop. The wife was terrified at the sight. But when she returned to the cottage, she seemed very calm. When the familiar voice came again, her heart was already clear. Smiling, she walked slowly into the living room.
What is it, dear?
And then the scene changed. Her husband was a white skeleton. There were piles of moldy sandwiches in front of him. The husband was already dead. What had happened before was just a fantasy of the wife. It's easy to see how frightened the wife was of her husband's domestic violence, even though her husband was dead. But the fear and shadow of domestic violence is permanent. So the question is, do you know how the old man died?